afternoon, everybody. Welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. We've got the former Wolverine Jim Scarcelli with us. It's a Sweet 16 Monday and a Michigan football practice update Monday as well. Scar, it's great to see you. How are you?
You know, Danny, I'm good. I'm just realizing I got my Lions playoff shirt on, and I saw that Josiah Stewart was visiting with Big Dan Campbell and the Lions, and he would look good coming off the edge down in the Motor City.
He would look good coming off the edge. I can tell you when the Lions sit back, I saw somebody, there was a projection that Kenneth Grant could be available for the Lions. You know that they're looking for a defensive lineman, maybe an edge, but maybe a defensive tackle. I'd like to see Big Kenny G in a Lions uniform. That would be sweet too.
Yeah, you can't lose, man. We got some guys who are going to make it happen.
Can't lose with Michigan players. I like how you're talking. Well, we're going to talk some Michigan football. Got a little bit of a spring update. Sherrone Moore spoke today after 3 days of practice and, spilled up some of what's going on over there. Scar's looking way down the line. I guess you have to do that if you're into football and you're into recruiting, not talking about the 26, even 27, but 28 offers. But we will start with basketball, and that is where Michigan went out there and busted the door down to the Sweet 16, upsetting Texas A&M on Saturday, and they now will play on Friday, the number 1 overall seed, Auburn in Atlanta. That's going to be a 9:39 tip. Scar, you came on the post game. You've had a little time now to reflect on Michigan's run and them being one of the last 16 teams standing. What are you thinking today?
Yeah, Danny, people were upset about our seeding, and UC San Diego, which is a good team. And Dusty actually thought they should have been, that San Diego was probably could have been seeded higher. And then Texas A&M, and people were worried about Texas A&M. And then, when I took a closer look, it was a good draw for us because those are two teams we could beat. Texas A&M was defensively, they're just like Michigan State, but they don't score like Michigan State. So I thought that Michigan State playing them twice and playing through the Big Ten would really prepare us for a Texas A&M type team. So, we're in good shape. And Auburn is Auburn's got a bunch of 22, 23-year-old guys, man. Bruce Pearl's a damn good coach. Danny, I went and saw a U of D basketball game 20-some years ago down at U of D in Detroit, and they were playing what the hell was it? Was
Memphis?
No, where Pearl was. He was at Green Bay, or where the hell was he?
Green Bay, Wisconsin?
Wherever the hell he was. I can't remember the school.
Okay.
But I didn't know who the hell he was. Our seats were right behind the visitor bench. And I was watching Pearl, and I didn't know who the hell he was. And I left there thinking, this guy's a good coach. He was just a fired up, good coach. And he's been, he's won, man. He went to Tennessee. He got in trouble there. He got him winning, but he knows how to play. He's got him going at Auburn. He's got a bunch of old dudes. It's a winnable game. They've got real good backcourt. They got a big fella who's one of the best in the country, but we got a good backcourt, and we got a big fella that's one of the best in the country. So, Danny Wolf beat him last year, so he'll have the guys confident. We got Trey. Trey knows the system. Those are a lot of new guys. He brought a lot of those guys in, Bruce Pearl. But Charles Barkley said that Trey Donaldson is his favorite basketball player. Did you hear him? Have you heard him say that?
I did hear him say that.
Yeah, he is his favorite college basketball player. But, Danny, it's a winnable game. Secure the ball. Keep the turnovers down. I think we match up well with them. And, we're in good shape, man.
Yeah, I think what you hit on is the upperclassman Broom, who's an All-American at 6'10". I mean, he is a destroyer. He's physical. So that's going to be tough. Danny Wolf's going to draw that assignment. You got to stay out of foul trouble I think that'll be big if you're Wolf, because if you're going to start counting on Cheddar's like an instant foul as soon as he comes in. So that's going to be a big matchup for Danny Wolf, not so much on the offense, but the defensive side. And yeah, their next 4 scorers, all in double figures, 3 of them are seniors, and they're big, and they rotate them in. So I don't necessarily think that's a good matchup. They got a lot of size, and they throw a lot of guards at you. Michigan really doesn't have that, unless you're now starting to talk about, Roddy Gale and putting him in the mix. They're going to need Roddy Gale, so that'll be good. And to me, I looked at Bruce Pearl's coaching career before Auburn. He was at Tennessee, and before that, Milwaukee from 2001 to 2005.
That was it, Milwaukee. That's where he was, Danny, Milwaukee. I can't remember. I couldn't remember who the hell it was, but I just remember being impressed with him, watching him coach his Milwaukee team. Danny, I tell you, when I watched a lot of college basketball. If you ask me, would I rather play Florida, Duke, Houston, or Auburn?
Mm.
I don't want to play Duke. I don't think I want to play Florida.
No,
I think Houston might be a better matchup there. I mean, they play great defense, but anyway, Auburn is not. I know they got them as the overall number 1 seed, but there's some other people I think I'd rather not play. So listen, man, they're all good now. 1, 2 seeds, they're all good teams, and I don't want Michigan State to win. We don't want to play them. They're just a terrible matchup for us. I think Michigan State, what they do on defense, the way they push the ball. I don't know if we have enough depth with the big guys. So we want Michigan State to lose against Ole Miss. Ole Miss has got a hell of a coach. Beard is a damn good coach. He worked under Bobby Knight. He's good. He's a guy that I was one of them to try to get if they couldn't get somebody good, and we ended up getting Dusty. But so Michigan State and Ole Miss, 2 good teams. We don't want to play State again. I just think it's a bad matchup for us. But then you got to play, man. We need someone. We need a couple. We need Roddy Gale to do it again, man. We need somebody else, Danny Wolf, to have one of those games, man. That's how you win a championship. We need Glenn Rice to come down and talk to him. You remember the series Glenn Rice had, those 6 games Glenn Rice had? Nothing. We ain't never seen nothing like that.
No, he was on fire. And usually when you get a team that's going to go and they get to the Sweet 16, they've already done this. They've had, the Roddy Gale game, and he essentially came out of nowhere. But I think the thing, if you feel good about Michigan, there's one part that you already said. This time, everyone's good. Everyone feels like, they're on a mission, and anyone can win and win. And I would think out of all of these teams, you look at them, can Michigan win 2 more games? I think they can, but the thing that would be encouraging is, I don't know, they may have played their best second half of the season on Saturday against Texas A&M, but when you look, they haven't had everyone firing. I don't know if you
we have, Danny. We went to UCLA. If I'm coaching this team, I'm telling them, look, we went to Los Angeles and we beat the hell out of you. Remember how everything was perfect against them? We went to Wisconsin and won. We went to USC and won. We went to Columbus and won. These guys are confident that they're not going to be intimidated by nothing. I'll tell you that right now. I don't think they're intimidated by anything.
Now, they did play well in California, the 2-game stretch against USC and UCLA. What I'm saying is that you can look, and maybe you do go point to the UCLA game, and you play the tape and you look, but Reuben Jones scored 3 points in that game. Will Cheddar scored 3 points in that game. They only had 6 overall bench points. So what you could say is that, if we could get Reuben Jones, if you could get Roddy Gale, if you could get Cheddar, all of those guys could, ascend a little bit and play. Now, I don't know if you're going to get 36 points from Vlad Golden like he had against UCLA and 20 from Trey Donaldson. But my point is that I don't think that they played UCLA and USC. That was their best stretch. Those are the best 2 games, but their best second half. The Purdue game in the Big Ten tournament, that was a hell of a game for them. And then obviously what they did in the second half, I still think that they can play better across the board. That's why I would be encouraged if I was a Michigan fan for their chances against Auburn. But I don't think it's a good matchup. They got a superstar. They got 4 guards that they're going to rotate in. And that's to me, that's not going to be great news for Michigan. But hey, anything at this point, I wouldn't.
Well, who the hell is a good matchup, Denny? Duke, Florida, Houston?
No, none of that.
They're all good, man.
No, none of
Everybody's good now.
I'm not saying that. I think they can pull the upset. What do you want me to say? You want me to just say go blue? I think they're going to win the game. I don't know.
Arkansas is tough. Arkansas.
I disagree with you, is I don't think it's a great matchup. You said it's a good matchup. No, I don't necessarily think so. So that's all.
No, I mean they're tough. They're a damn good team, and we got to play. I'd rather play Ole Miss if we do win this game. I'd rather play Ole Miss than Michigan State. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I agree with you on that. But if Michigan and Michigan State match up, if you're a fan of stories, this area. And sometimes it jumps up where people will get excited in a tournament run. But overall, basketball in this area, you just don't have the fans. Like, in football, it's tough because football, people love it so much. But you just don't have that oomph when it comes to basketball. And if you had Michigan and Michigan State playing for the chance to go to the Final Four, I think it could bring a lot of excitement. And then I would also go back. You mentioned Glenn Rice. The year that Michigan won it, they lost to Ohio State twice, and they also lost to Illinois twice in the regular season. Scar, and I'd have to look it up. I think they beat both of those teams after losing to them twice in the regular season. They beat them both in the tournament. Yeah, I know they beat Illinois. I'm throwing out Ohio State. That just came into my head, too. I think that they beat Ohio State and Illinois in '89 twice, or lose to them.
I know they beat Illinois. They didn't beat them in the regular season. But yeah, we need Spike Olbrich to check in, give him a little speech. But Denny, you got to play. You got to have we're capable. Someone has to have the great game, and we got to secure the ball and have a good game plan. But there's some other things going on in hoop. I don't know if you want to keep getting. We got 4 teams in the Sweet 16.
Do it. Let's hear it.
Well, you got Maryland. They the big fella. That kid is unbelievable. That Queen kid he's a hell of a player. We ain't going to see him again, but he's damn good. We got Michigan State and Purdue in the Sweet 16, so that's good. Wisconsin came back late and made it a game, but that's that. I just read where Arkansas. That was a damn good team. We were right there. Could have beat them, but he's got $10 million on his spent on this roster. And they say it's going to be going up this next year. So that's what Cal is spending. He's got a $10 million roster, and I read somewhere where the average for a Power 4 starter this year coming up, average for a Power 4 starter is $500,000. So if you're a starter at Illinois, Michigan, Purdue, wherever the hell you are, you want to jump in the portal, that's about what your the going rate is.
Speaking of the portal, it opened today, and Justin Pippen from Michigan, the freshman guard, he entered his name in the portal, and you got that going on if you're Michigan. You got any thought about Pippen?
Yeah, Danny, let me tell you, when you put on when I watch the teams we got to beat in the Big Ten, I mean, I've said this about Pippen privately to some other, maybe to you, I don't know, but not publicly, that I don't think we're beating Michigan State and some really good teams with him. I don't see the athleticism. I'm just being honest. I'm watching the kid. That's what you do as a coach. You look at, you size guys up. I was honestly surprised that they brought him in and gave him a scholarship because I don't see the athletic ability. I don't see this. You watch the Michigan State's 2 guards and the speed they got, taking guys to the hole. I don't see Pippen doing that. I see him as a liability on defense, trying to cover, the kind of guards that he has to cover. So I think they sat down. Dusty's been sitting them the last 6 weeks or so, a month or so ago, right? We really haven't seen him play. They probably had a discussion and said, look, man, all I got for you is a scholarship, no more NIL money. So that's probably, I bet you that's how that conversation goes, because you can't take the kid's scholarship away. I don't think anybody's going to lose scholarships. They're just going to say, we got no more NIL money for you. You know what I mean? That's an easy out so that someone can't say, oh, you're screwing the kid. Well, I think those NILs are 1-year deals, I would imagine. And It's like, hey, it didn't work out. If the kid had a great year, he would be asking for more than, right? So that's how the game works. But anyway, bottom line, I think it's good for Michigan. Nothing against the kid. I just don't think we're winning a Big Ten championship with him, especially when you watch Kason and you see the difference in the athletic ability. You know, and I watched McKinney the other day. He's a bigger, stronger, more athletic kid. So I think it's the right decision. Dusty had a talk with him and said, you might want to take a peek in that portal.
Yeah, maybe. The other side of that is if you and it's always a fluid situation, and there's no doubt Kason's really come on. Kason in these last 2 games and what he was able to do in the Big Ten tournament, I mean, he's really taken a gigantic step forward. But if you look at the bulk of the season, Pippen was the first guy out of the 3 freshmen. He was the one that had the most time. He was the most steady hand at the wheel. He was the one that was getting the playing time and put Kason on the bench. And you might be right. Not every guy, it's about, the athleticism and everything else. Pippen reminded me a little bit of Eli Brooks, who was no great athlete and ended up being one of the great guards at Michigan. So it might have come down to NIL. It might have come down to Pippen. The only thing I would say is that we didn't see Fat Brooks at all. And would you say that you want to wave him goodbye too?
No, I don't know enough about him. I don't know the situation, but I understand it. I mean, I'm looking at Brooks, or I'm looking at Pippen compared to Kason playing defense. There's a difference. I guarantee you, the guards in the Big Ten, they're licking their chops if Pippen's covered them, opposed to a kid like Kason. I'm just keeping it real. There's more athletic. So when I talk about athletic ability, I'm talking about the ability to defend. Score and this, that, and whatever. And they take a nice looking jump shot, but can the guy defend? Is he a liability on defense?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm glad that you keep it real. I just look at when they're I've seen many of freshmen that doesn't look like they belong on Michigan. Xavier Simpson's one that comes to mind. Xavier Simpson looked scared. Xavier Simpson looked like he didn't belong in the Big Ten.
I don't agree with that. See, I saw athletic ability out of the block with that kid.
Yeah, well, you must not have watched him dribble the ball much. He was scared.
Yeah, I saw the athletic ability, and I see he's some of the skill stuff.
I don't think you saw it when he was a freshman, Scar.
I saw him. I watched every game, Dan, just like you.
Yeah, man. I just don't think you're remembering it correctly.
Yeah, I listen. I remember the athletic ability, and then you work on shooting. Can be taught.
It wasn't shooting. He couldn't. He looked like he was scared to be out on the floor.
Okay,
couldn't handle the ball. It didn't. He looked like he was in over his head.
All right, John Beeline saw something. I had faith in Big John, but here's something else going on. Danny.
It's good for you to have faith in the coaches.
Hey,
how about that?
Here's something else going on. What do you make about the manager down there at McNeese State with the big? I love him. Did you see the kid coming out with the squad?
Yeah, I love stuff like that. Yeah, he comes out with the boom box. I sampled a little bit of the music that he was playing on there. Looked like he got an NIL deal. He had
everybody's getting NIL'd up.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the future, man. Everybody's gonna have one of those dudes bringing them out like a fighter. It's like a.
I like it when boxing they come out to the music. I like all of that. The 49ers, they seem Debo and their big tackle, they came out with the boom boxes and they did it. And, the Pistons have it going on right now. They have the rookie that runs that. I like all that. The one thing that I didn't like, and Michigan fans seem to like it, I did not like it. And if I was the coach, I wouldn't have let it happen, was Hunter Dickinson before the game wearing the ski mask. I like a little bit of that stuff, but I like this seemed fun, genuine. With Hunter, I didn't like it. So, but people could claim that you can claim whatever they want. Now that Hunter's gone, most people are like, I didn't like it either. But at the time, people were like, leave him alone. So yeah, I liked it.
Hey, Danny, getting back to the portal, if I'm coaching at Michigan State's got most of those guys back. Okay, they're going to lose the little guard. Hopefully, he'll go to the pros. Richardson, but the big guys under the basket, okay, they're all coming back. So, and that was our problem is the physicality of what they do under the backboard. And I would believe that they would be the preseason team to beat going into next year. So if I'm Dusty May,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scar. Keep
If
going.
I'm Dusty May, I mean, I really want to get this kid from Iowa, this big 6'10", 250-pound kid that everybody, I get, he's got Creighton, Gonzaga. We're on his list. So we need big fellas that are going to throw some hooks down there under the backboard, that we can match up, because we're going to lose Vlad. We need somebody that's going to come in there and not get pushed around, man, because that's what you got to have in the Big Ten. Auburn's got a big 6'10", 300-pound dude. Did you see that guy?
I saw him look like he got banged up a little bit in that game.
Yeah, he did come down with a hamstring. Hopefully it'll be a 1 week, 10-day hamstring. I'm not asking for the guy to be out for
I hear you.
Just 10 days. That's all.
Yeah.
Anyway, it'll be interesting, Denny. What do we do with Walters? Do you wonder how that conference is? Walters, what's going on with his back? Is it because we could really use that kid? We need 6'10" that can stretch the floor. He was a factor, man. I don't know what the hell's going on with him. Is his back that bad? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Dusty does. And are we at a disadvantage that the portal's open and we're still playing?
Well, I think that he's got enough time. They were bringing those 7-footers in from Europe over the last month or so. You saw them. Michigan was in the mix. Yeah. I think Creighton. I forgot the other guy, other team that was in the mix for that big 7-1 kid. So, I would think with a run to the Sweet 16, plus the ability when they extended and gave that sweetener to Dusty May. There was also part of the conversation was NIL. So all of that, they've got some money to spend. And I would be encouraged if I was a Michigan fan, because you just saw, remember, he didn't really get to go the pickings in the transfer portal. And then certainly with any of the recruits, he was ended up able to get McKinney. But, Dusty came in late, to the game for Michigan. Yeah. And when that stuff was already going, and he was still able to put together a pretty nice roster. So yeah. There you go.
Oh, Dusty put the puzzle. That's the biggest part of this deal, man.
Yeah,
putting the puzzle together, and Walters was a big part of it. People don't want to talk about that, but we would have had a different run. I think we would have won a game or two more if that kid would have been healthy. But it is what it is. If, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But we're still good. We're in good shape. But
yeah, I'm not as high. I didn't see much from Walters. He had like a 1 or 2 game.
But then he's 6'10". He's 6'10", and he worked into that rotation. See, that's why
he kind of plays like he's 6'5".
I know he is, but he can defend a big guy, and he worked into the rotation. And I think that's one of the problems. I think Wolf and Cheddar, those guys are playing tired. They're not getting as much. They weren't getting out of.
I'll agree with you on that. It would be nice if I had to put a percentage on Danny Wolf coming back. I would say probably 25%. So you got to prepare to lose him too. It's more likely that he's going to the pros than coming back. Although there's still a chance. I'm not trying to push him out the door or anything.
And then what do you do with Roddy Gale? I mean, if you'd have asked that question a week ago, 99% of Michigan fans would say, adios. But now,
if you'd have asked me a week ago, I would have said you shake his hand and say good luck.
No, but now, the kids, anyway, that game put a lot of money in his pocket.
Well, it did. So the great thing is let's see how he follows it up, and hopefully he's.
Yeah.
I don't.
Hopefully, he does the same damn
26 thing. Piece from him, but let's see. There's before the season, the thought was that it was Donaldson and Gale. That was the backcourt. Those guys were the alphas, and the starting experience that Gale had. I mean, coming in, he was. He had 40 starts.
Yeah. Well, he's worked, Denny. We're fired up. Those guys are so fired up. I'm so happy for them. Hey, let's get into some football, some other little thoughts outside of Michigan.
All
got Josh Gaddis, the Broyles Award winner, over at Michigan. He's over at Syracuse now. He's been fired at the last 2 stops, so he's over there at Syracuse. the Broyles Award winner from Michigan. Any thoughts there?
Well, I thought that he had a great opportunity here. He won the Broyles, and then when Harbaugh left and looked like he was going to go to Minnesota for 24 or 48 hours, that Gaddis found out that he was not going to be in the succession plan and be the head coach. It was going to be Sherrone, and he didn't like that, so he was bitter and he took off. And it shows you that, he had some things. Yeah, you have to have not just your coaching resume lined up, but you also have to have your personal life lined up too. And there were some things there that I think ended up costing him.
It's interesting, Danny. Old Prime got the HBCU working toward getting former big-time all-pro football players. I just see Tennessee State just hired Reggie Barlow, another guy that played like 10 years. And, it's interesting that because, they don't have a lot of NIL money. I'm sure they probably don't have much at all, but it's interesting that concept that they feel that's the way to go, to recruit, to build a program is to get guys that played in the NFL and maybe that helps them recruit.
Yeah, I talked to Tyrone Wheatley when he was down there coaching one of those teams, and everything that you'd listen to Tyrone Wheatley talk, and you'd just been like, "Man, this is what it's all about." He just loves the game, he loves the kids, and he's in the right spot. So,
yeah. Hey, speaking of Prime, also this is interesting. I'm trying to think about this as a former player. Prime and the guy at Syracuse are trying to do a scrimmage. A spring scrimmage between teams, Syracuse, Colorado, I'm just thinking about it as a player. It would be, because spring football is physical. You have full physical practices. It would be, I wouldn't mind doing it. I wouldn't mind having one.
A Eastern Michigan spring game?
Yeah,
Or inter-squad practice.
I remember, I wouldn't mind doing something against someone we don't play. Like if we don't have Notre Dame on the schedule, and they came in for a couple days like the pros do and doing some things. I'm just putting myself in there as a former player. I think there might be some good in it. But it's a cost. There's a cost for the university. You got to bring these guys in. You got to travel, you got to feed them. You got to travel them. Would they want to have an open scrimmage? See, that's the other thing. Now, I don't know if Prime's talking about having an open scrimmage.
Probably not.
With the opponent where you charge a fee to come in and watch the game. I don't know if that's what he wants to do. But if it's simply, like high school, we have scrimmages. We have preseason scrimmages against, 3 other teams. Everybody does it in the state.
Yeah,
there's a lot of good. There's a lot of good in it. You get a lot out of it, and that's that.
Yeah, the pros, they value that. There's the exhibition seasons are now complete trash. You get nothing out of those. Those are walkthroughs for the most part. There's some teams that play some of their starters, but it's the value that they get in the squad or the scrimmages that you're talking about. Sherrone Moore was asked about the possibility of dumping the spring game, as a lot of teams today. And he was pretty adamant that he wants it for the fans. He wants it for the players, and they want to have this spring game. So that's almost a exact quote for Sherrone Moore. So he sounded very bullish on the continuation of a spring game for Michigan. We know they're having one this year, coming up on the 19th, I believe. So whether the changes after that or not, but he sounded pretty gung-ho about
when I was playing. We had, I think we just used to call them JV scrimmages. I was a freshman. Guys that aren't playing, we got on a bus. There were maybe 40, 50 guys. These are all young guys that aren't really playing. It was during the week. I think it might have been on a Friday. So yeah, the team is on the road. The travel team is on the road playing at another place. And we went up to Columbus and played the Buckeye young guys. And there'd be like 2 GAs in the team. We didn't have any coaches, assistant coach. They were all grad assistants. We almost had a bench clearing brawl at the end of the game. But anyway, It's coached up. The coaches look at it after, and they look at it. We had actually played. We actually scrimmaged Grand Rapids Junior College, Denny, when I was playing. So these were young guys that weren't playing, weren't playing much, and so the team is on. So they would have been on like a Friday. In fact, I think we might have. Yeah. Anyway, those are things that go on to get guys game reps that aren't getting it, who aren't playing.
Yeah, even if you were bringing in Eastern Michigan, you would not have a full tackle on your quarterback. They would have orange jerseys on, so there would be that part when it came down to it. A couple things from Sherrone Moore. You can comment in on it. Scar, they have had 3 days of practice already, but they have been in shells. Tomorrow will be the first padded practice for.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so wow, it's so much better for these guys, because spring football was just a brutality deal, 20 brutal practices, and they're just so much smarter. So that's the thing. Then you ask about a scrimmage with another team. How much contact do you want to take a chance of getting guys hurt? You're not gonna bring Syracuse to Colorado to run around in shorts.
Right.
You're not getting nothing out of that. That's useless.
Speaking of not getting a lot out of that, it was tough to ask Sherrone Moore after 3 days of just the guys in shells. Like, hey, who's making a move? Who looks good? Who's flashing? But he did say he likes that added size, watching the wide receivers. Browder's one of the players, or two of the players last week mentioned that he went up and made a nice catch. And Sherrone just said he likes the size, the physicality, and the height of this wide receiver room. He mentioned Cole Sullivan by name in the linebacker rotation, that he's in the mix. He's getting bigger and stronger. And then he loves the edges. You have Derek Moore, you got TJ Guy, then you got Brandt, who came on, talked a lot about him during the season. He kept playing more and more and making more plays. And then Nichols also, who.
Okay, so he didn't mention Barham.
Barham, he was asked about Barham. Barham's going to be sometimes. Wink said they rushed him on the edge last year anyways. Sounds like they're going to have him at linebacker and also, have him as a chess piece and move him around a little bit and put him in there.
Dan, just so you get an understanding, that these are the decisions coaches are making. So the listeners get an understanding of how coaches think. So you're looking at your depth chart and you're looking at getting your best 22 players. So really a competition is between Nichols.
Yeah.
And what's the other linebacker you said?
Edge, Brandt.
No. Inside linebacker. What's the key?
Oh, I mentioned Cole Sullivan.
Yeah. Okay. Now they play different positions. Right?
They got Jimmy Rolder, Cole Sullivan, and Hood.
Hear me out. They play different positions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But when you're looking at getting your best players, even though they play different positions, that's how you kind of make your decision about Barham. You know what I mean? Who's better, Nichols or the other guy? A linebacker.
But do you think you could
who's
play
better, Nichols as an edge or Cole as an inside linebacker? You don't think they're competing against each other, but when you're trying to get your best 22 on the field, now that gives you the flux. Where do you do with Barham? That's how those decisions are made sometimes.
You don't think it could be like they think Barham, he's a good inside linebacker, but he also is a really good guy coming off the edge. And Wink mentioned it. That's what the NFL teams are looking for. And maybe they had that conversation with Barham. He's like, look, and they already did that a little bit last year, according to Wink, put him out there and blitz him. I don't recall that myself, but so what I'm asking you is a special package, Jay-Sean Barham package, where they have him at linebacker, but then they also sprinkle him in there at different times on the edge.
Yeah, you know what else they've done? Minter did more of it than Wink. Is he would play 3 edges at the same time in the game. So you might see some of that with if they feel they have better players there, that's what you do. Instead of playing 2 edges, you play 3 in a lot of you work your packages around that. Your game plan is based on some of that thinking.
Scar, this is an interesting thing. Keegan mentioned that Michael Capana got some love today. He was asked about the running back room, and Haynes, he mentioned from Alabama. He says he eats, what he said, one ingredient meals or one, he does, he's just sound like a, just a physical specimen talking about Justice Hayes and his diet. And then he did go over and he mentioned Capana, who I remember you last year, you had talked to somebody and said, you think that Micah Capana looked like he could be a player? Yeah, I don't know if you recall.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him at practice last year, and he's a good-looking kid. He hasn't had a lot of reps. He's a big physical athlete, and yeah, the room is the running back room is good. There's competition, and yeah, tomorrow is where you start really, you can try to start getting some separation. You just running around in shorts. You're not getting much going there. Here's Trevor. Rolder at inside linebacker should give Michigan the versatility to rush. Yeah, if you got to believe they have faith in Rolder now. They played him a lot, so him and Hausman and Barham, and then if they got faith in Cole, so yeah, you've got to believe that they have a great deal of faith now in Rolder. I mean, because he's played so much, and yeah, and then that's it. But yeah, you wonder who's the fourth linebacker, or who's the fifth? Okay, if we got Barham, Rolder, Hausman, Cole, that's four, right?
Yeah.
Okay, who's the fifth? That's another big question.
Hood, or he mentioned Chase Taylor. There's two freshmen.
Well, those are some big questions that get into some of those the mindset. But yeah, those are great. Listen, hopefully we got 5 or 6 that can play, man.
Yeah, well, it sounded like they have 5 or 6 that could play, and the NOB, the freshmen, there weren't many across the country that were rated higher than him, and Moore did mention Chase Taylor by name today as well as the linebacker group. It was a great question from somebody that said, "Could you give us as much as you can about the linebacker depth?"
Yeah, well, it's great that there's a spring game that we'll be able to be on TV. Hopefully, we'll be able to break it down and look at it.
Well, hopefully, you're going to go out there, Scar, so you can meet and greet some of the fans. I want to say hi to you.
Yeah, I don't know.
What do you mean, April 19th? What are you doing on a Saturday? Workout in. Come on down. We'll get you into the press box.
Yeah, they don't want to see some old washed up has-been.
Anyway, no, we'll set up a little booth there for you.
All right, here's some other stuff going on, Denny. This kid from Portage, Greg Patrick.
Yeah, offensive lineman. I've heard of him.
Okay,
yeah.
We want to get him, Denny. We want to lock down the state always. Avery Gatch last year was the best lineman in the state. He's playing for the Wolverines. This kid from Portage, Patrick, I think his old man played for the Spartans, right?
I think that's correct.
Okay, well, you want to play for championships? Hopefully we can get this kid. We want to lock down the state. So that's a kid I'm watching. I don't want to give Michigan State no hope. None. And then we want this guy. I like him. I respect the guy as a coach, but we want him fired in 3 years. Okay, Danny, that's what we want from Michigan State. Just keeping it real. Every 4 years, we want a new coach. And then I was just interesting that I remember meeting Bo when I was a sophomore. He was recruiting my brother, and he's like, we're going to be keeping an eye on you. We're going to keep an eye on you. I met him when we went up to pick up my brother on his recruiting visit. Anyway, what's interesting, Danny, is you got kids getting offered now as freshmen in high school. We've got this kid, Asher Gatto. He's a class of 28 kid, 6'5", 235. They've already offered this kid. He's a freshman in high school.
So what, Scar, I think you misspoke. You said 6'5", 325. You said.
Or 6'5", 235. Yeah, he's. But what I do like is defensive ends.
Yeah.
I like seeing more defensive players. Sherrone is I keep hearing about these offensive linemen. Okay, that's good, but let's get some freaking defensive end linemen in here. And then this great kid, Greg, who's this other guy? This kid Foster from Georgia, another 6'4" defensive end, 250. He's another kid. He's a freshman in high school now. So obviously, you see size when you go into the school. You see the kid. You can't coach size, and you see he's on the varsity playing as a freshman, and so that's where we're at with that. So here's a comment from Keegan. Scar's going to be running Oklahoma drills in the parking lot.
Yeah.
That is a great drill, man. Oklahoma drill it's a great drill to figure out what you got, man. It's one of the first drills we used to do it at Michigan too. To figure out it's just a basic vanilla football play. You take on a block, come off a block. And anyway, everybody does it, and it's give you an idea what kind of football player you got.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, and it doesn't surprise me that they're offering freshmen in high school. I would think that more than half of the players that they end up recruiting, they know by the time that they get in high school that the special ones, that these guys, more than half, there's always late bloomers. There's always guys that move up, there's all of that. We get that when you're 13 years old, by the time you're 17, there's a lot of things that can change, but you've been around enough guys. Like when I heard about Lamar Woodley, when he was a freshman, being, just the greatest, thing of all time. When LeVar Arrington and Courtney Brown, they both went to Penn State. I remember talking to some of their people that were into recruiting there. They said, we knew these guys when they were in 7th grade, but, by the time they were in high school, these guys, they were superstars. We knew across the country. So I would think a lot of, I don't know if if they know in 7th and 8th grade. I don't know if there's camps, if they're identifying them then. But certainly, it's not a surprise that they're identifying them when they're a freshman.
Danny, listen, man. I coached for 25 years. I could size a kid up. I would look at freshmen, sophomore guys that are just coming out for the first time, and I could size a guy up and put him through an agility drill. Let me watch him tackle one couple times. I could figure it out in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So these kids that are getting offered, as freshmen, okay. They got all the things I can't coach, man. 6'5", 235, and you put on this film, you see that he's athletic, you see that he showed toughness.
Yeah.
Height, speed, athletic ability, I can't coach. I can work on toughness. I can develop some toughness, and I can teach technique and all that stuff, but I can't teach height. I can't teach athletic ability and speed, so that's why, again, it used to frustrate me as a coach. That's all these guys wanted, man. But I get it.
Speaking of what guys want, did you see that the Jackson Cantwell, the 5-star, made the rounds in Michigan recently? He's got Oregon, Ohio State, Miami, all these schools that are coming after. He's the number one, not only the number one offensive lineman, but his rivals has him as the number one overall player. And there were a couple things that I thought about. You have, I don't know how much, if they have $10 million, I don't know if they have $20 million that they're looking to spend on the transfer portal and on recruits, but are they carving out, how much money are they going to carve out for a tackle when they just, last year they got 2 guys. You'd never get enough good offensive linemen, but I'm just thinking, you don't want to, totally turn them away, but would their resources be better off if they were going for a linebacker or an edge there or a corner? I don't know. The other thing that I thought was interesting is I heard it at the news conference today in the room. These guys, I didn't exactly know who they are, I would tell you, but they were talking about recruiting, and I was half listening, and then they said, Cantwell's agent is Drew Rosenhaus.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, Drew Rosenhaus, the super agent. So what that tells you immediately.
I got to stop you there for a second, Denny.
Yeah.
That really disgusts me that those dudes are now work their way down to the high school level. It just anyway, I'm not a big fan of that guy and that type of mentality, but I guess that's what it is. I'm sorry.
They're all going to have agents now.
Yeah, I get it. Whatever. I wish it was some other dudes, not those kind of guys.
Yeah, well, the thing that you don't like about Rosenhaus is that if you're thinking about Cantwell, if you thought, well, we'll just make him a fair offer, you're going to have to do more than a fair offer. You're going to have to, you're probably going to get into Underwood type money, I think. No,
I saw the picture Josh had on our website with Sprague, Cantwell, and Babalua standing next to each other. Did you see that picture?
No, I didn't. I saw him next to Sherrone Moore.
I know, having played. Okay, Sprague is 6'8", Cantwell's 6'8", maybe 6'9", and Babalua is like 6'7", whatever. I'm just thinking as a former football player, and you line up, it's always that first snap. When you look at the dude on film, you've seen him on film, right? The tight end from like I played on the edge, and then you look at the tackles on film, but you don't know until you line up. You know, okay, how big is this dude? And it's like that would be an intimidating, a great looking group to have 6'8", 3 Bills lining up across the board, you know. So anyway, that Trevor's got a comment. It's a lot easier to move tackles to guards than it is to move guards to tackle, like we have been doing. Give me all the top tackles. Yeah, you know, Trevor, just give me the biggest, strongest, fastest, toughest, most athletic 6'5" to 6'7", 6'8" athletic offensive line type guys, and we'll move them around. But yeah, it might, yeah, you tackle. But you know what Michigan does, Trevor, we pull all our guys. We'll pull tackles, we'll pull guards, we pull centers. So they want guys that are athletic at all those positions. Your tackle's got to be athletic enough to get the linebackers on some everything we do. And they cross-train guys. But yeah, give me the biggest, baddest, most athletic, toughest dudes, and we'll get the best 5 on the field. That's how I'm thinking.
Trevor McHugh, the senior writer, is on a heater. And he says he's heard the horror stories about the agents and the recruits and the monster cuts they're taking. Calls Drew Rosenhaus slimy, but at least he's a pro compared to the other frauds.
No, I heard they're getting a much bigger cut than what the NFL type guys are getting. Yeah, which is, that's not right.
Yeah.
But but then again, Denny, you know, there are some guys, there are some colleges that might say it's just like the professional teams, they want to know who your agent is before they draft you. You know what I mean? If they might have a bad relationship with a certain agent, and they're like, man, I don't want to draft that dude. I don't want to deal with.
You should look at baseball. Baseball, they look at the agents and guys will, because they know, like if Rosenhaus was an agent for a guy that was going to be number 1, there's plenty of teams that have passed on players.
So anyway, that's the factor.
Sustainability. All right, here's the $1 million question, or at least a $4.99 question that's coming in, Scar, and it is from Michigan Go Blue 1234. And he wants to know what you guys think about Sherrone Moore so far as head coach.
Hey, he hired a really, really good staff. He hasn't lost any of them. So he looks like he did the right thing as far as picking his staff. So, you know, he didn't have to fire anybody. So he feels good with them. He was dealt some things in the quarterback room last year and in certain positions that he's fixing, and he fixed. We finished up the season with a lot of confidence. The players seem to have faith. Confidence at Schembechler Hall is high. Recruiting is good. We brought in a really good group of high school players. We brought in a real good group of transfers to plug these needs that we had problems with last year. So I'm confident with everything that's going on, everything I hear as through the grapevine as a former player, that the confidence level is high. There's respect for leadership, and we're in a great situation, man.
Yeah, and for me, I was down on Sherrone Moore as I could possibly be in early November after they had lost to Oregon and after they lost to Indiana. There was some game management situations and both of those losses that jumped out at me as a coach that was in over his head. I didn't like how he was divvying up the snaps with the running backs. He couldn't figure out what to do with Donovan Edwards. The quarterback room was a disaster. I mean, it was really horrible. But then came the bye week between Indiana and Northwestern, and they flipped Bryce Underwood, and everything has turned around since then, to be honest. The recruiting just, continued. The momentum just went rocketed up. Obviously, they beat Northwestern and played their best game of the year. Then they beat Ohio State. Then they beat Alabama. I mean, they changed everything around. And you mentioned the recruiting and then the transfer portal. So it was a real boomerang of for me in a fluid situation where I was pretty down on Sherrone Moore and how he was handling everything from really. But to
to really answer that question, Denny, another way to answer that question, because I remember being a recruit. A good gauge to judge a coach and the confidence is what are recruits doing. Recruits are down there, they're seeing things, they're talking to people, and recruits are believing. We're getting good players. Obviously, there's money now and what's going on too, but you got to believe it's more than money. The kids that are coming in, getting recruited, transfers, high school kids, they've got faith. So those are indicators that I put a lot of stock in. What are the recruits doing? I think, so that's why I want to get this kid from Portage. I don't want him going to East Lansing. Keep him down.
Yeah, let me add, I forgot to add, I'll put CJ Sadler from Cass Tech on that list that you want the kid from Port. He's a
yeah, we definitely want to get that kid.
Yeah.
He's
in my radar.
He is he's a speed and space guy. It's good to have still a couple of those guys too. That kid's a hell of an athlete.
Yeah. Hey, all of this practice news, we've got it. If you go to the Maize and Blue Review, to the Den and the stories, there have been updates on practice already. I know it's hard to believe, shells and everything, but there's been a story or two there. You go over, you want to know what's going on down with Michigan football. And then, of course, over on the basketball side, the continuation of this run to the Final Four by Dusty May and company. That's what it's all about as well. Join up the Maize and Blue Review today by going to michigan.rivals.com. Scar, I say, 98% of the time we're talking about Michigan, but then there's some other times that we talk about some other things. And here's an important question that's coming in from Andres. He wants to know, Scar,
okay,
cash games or tournaments?
As far as poker?
Yeah.
I'm a cash game. I ain't got the patience for tournaments, man. I ain't sitting there for 4 hours. I'm playing cash. That's my deal there.
I'm a tournament guy, but I like cash games. So, right. You just jump in. You can jump in immediately.
I thought you were going to ask me about some picks this week. I tell you, I picking NCAA tournament games. Good luck with that. I'll tell you where I've had good luck. If you guys are bettors, and I've
let's hear that. Yeah,
I've had good luck with the CBI and the NIT early rounds. CBI, NIT.
No thanks.
Listen, no. Let me hear it. I'm gonna tell you. I'm trying to win money.
I hear you. Hear you.
Here's the deal. You
Yeah.
take the home team when the visitor has to travel about 1,500 miles. I don't think the bookies put enough stock in that. They put it into their line, but I've done well with home teams, like a team in San Francisco when the team's got to fly all the way from Chicago. So anyway, that's a way to make money. Then I got one more comment about basketball.
Okay.
We don't want to play Michigan State, but if we do, and I think this might even be true with Auburn. Auburn's a real physical team. And I've been watching Izzo's teams for 30 years. I watched Beeline compete against Izzo. Yeah. Early on, we couldn't stop him. He beat Beeline pretty good. But when we started to beat them, I realized this playing Michigan State. This is when I really realized it, when we played Michigan State above all teams that we were on our schedule. The referees were a bigger factor in those games when Beeline went against Izzo than any game, because the amount of physicality, the pushing and shoving and sumo wrestling that Michigan State does, you've got to have the right officiating crew. So when Beeline started, the times we beat them, I could tell early on when those officials were calling all that physical stuff, we were in good shape. So in the NCAA tournament, that's what freaking what's his name at UConn, Hurley, was going nuts, how physical that they were allowing some things to go. But anyway, if we do have to play Michigan State, that's what I'm hoping for. that being an NCAA tournament game, we don't get Big Ten refs. We get some guys from somewhere else that aren't going to allow all the clubbing and wrestling and rugby type stuff that they do. So, because we're just not that kind of a down. Listen, we got Vlad and Danny Wolf. They're skilled players, but they're not thugs. You know, they're not pushing guys around like Michigan State's 4 guys do. So, if we play them, I think we also need that against Auburn too. We want officials that are going to call things and not allow some of the thuggery.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the luck of the draw. Maybe that's where Dusty May comes in and he really works the officials if it comes down to that, because you don't want to just concede the game if you see the officials and say, oh, well, screw it. We're going to be in for it now because we get this crew. I wanted to correct or at least give some more information. In 1989, Michigan did lose to Illinois twice and then beat them in the Final Four to end up going to the championship game, and Michigan won it all. A few years later, in '92, when Michigan made it, the Fab Five made it to the championship game against Duke, they beat Ohio State in the Elite Eight, and they had lost to Ohio State twice during the regular season. So that's where that one came in. So
right. I mean, listen, I'm not afraid to play them, but I think that the officiating is depends on what kind of team you got, man. Denny, you know, I coached it and played it, and you got to both sports, football and basketball, you got to adjust. Some refs are calling certain stuff. Offensive linemen holding, they're calling nickel dime stuff. Other team refs will let you tackle guys. You have to figure it out as a player and as a coach what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of it. You really do have to figure it out.
You figure it out early in the game. What are these guys doing compared to the other guy?
Well, and then you hope for consistency. If you're saying,
that's
"Hey,
right.
well,
you don't get it," you don't get it. But
yeah, that's it. I mean, it can drive you crazy, but then you can't get consumed with it, whether you're with the players, and sometimes you can't let it distract you if you're the coach. Fans are going to be distracted by it because they think they're getting screwed every time the whistle blows. So it's that. Hey, Scar, did you think Queen? You mentioned Queen from Maryland. You saw the shot that he made, the incredible shot. Did you think it was a travel? There seems to be a lot of debate.
Yeah, I took a good look at it. I rewinded it a couple times, and it was really, really close. The commentaries didn't talk about it, but the kid is he's a damn good player, and it's amazing. He's 6'10", and he moves like that. I mean, he's Joker with more athletic ability. He's going to be something special. But Danny, we're down there in Atlanta. We're down there in hot Atlanta. And the maize and blue will be in the house, and the Spartans will be down there too, man. Keegan thinks he walked. I thought it's one of them. It was tough. It was questionable. But
I mean, if you break out the rule book, and there's a lot of people that do that, they want to talk about a gather. Gene Steratore was on the show where they have all the guys in there, and he said it wasn't close to a travel. You know, he talked about when you get the ball and, you're able to get, and I didn't think it was a travel either. But when I watch basketball, I was watching Auburn. The one guy, he had a steal and he made the 4 steps and then he went up and threw it down, but there was nobody around him. I think Cohen Carr, there's a few times that I've watched him where he's taken off and he's going in for a jam and he doesn't dribble. And he's going from the 3-point line. Some of these guys are so athletic. And Queen, he finishes off each foot. He's got a little bit of herky-jerky to him. It just it looks like. And these guys that use the Euro step, they all look like they're traveling. So you watch a lot of basketball and you slow it down and you're like, well, maybe not. They're able to get it. And so I know there's a lot of people that have officiated. They break the rule book out. They say, no, that was definitely a travel. I didn't think it was. So
that guy's a good coach at Maryland, man. Denny, I tell you what, the Big Ten is bringing in the Indiana just hired a stud, DeVries.
Yeah,
brother was a great football player at Iowa, and so IU is going to be someone to deal with now. Okay, and then who else brought a new coach in?
Indiana. Did you mention Indiana?
And Iowa. Iowa brought in a proven. You're seeing more guys, Denny, bringing in proven winners. You know, so the guy Iowa brought in a guy that was a winner at a couple places.
Andre said that Queen walked away with his $10. Yeah. Hey, look, and I'll give you this. If you had, and you know, I had picked, I was having a hard time making the selections, but for the late night, I put Maryland and Michigan State on a money line. That ended up being a winner, but it was a minus 142. I was thinking, wow, this doesn't seem like the greatest bet, but it did cash. But if I had Maryland and I had any amount of money that was, you know, even $10, I would have been with all of you guys. I'd have been like, it's a travel. So
coaching in the Big Ten in basketball now is there. I don't see many stiffs out there, man. I see a lot of really good coaches, man. You better be great recognizing talent. You better be great scheming it up. And hopefully you got Joe Lynn in the mix, baby.
Yes, Joe Lynn can really help cover your tracks.
Get her a brand new Michigan hat, baby. Come on the sidelines.
Hey, let's build her a statue. Yeah. I'm ready. I want to
get her coming out with the boom box like the McNeese State did.
Let's do it. I'm with you, Scar. You did a great job. Look forward to talking with you next week.
All right, man. Go blue, baby. Final Four.
Final Four. Everybody have a great day. Thanks for watching.